You are no longer black or brown or yellow or red. You are now green. You are light green or dark green. Do you understand?
Sir, yes, sir!
Swafford.
Sir, yes, sir!
You the maggot whose father served in Vietnam?
Sir, yes, sir!
Outstanding! Did he have the balls to die there?
Sir, no, sir!
Too fucking bad. He ever talk about it?
Sir, only once, sir!
Good. Then he wasn't lying. Are you eyeballing me with those baby blues? Are you?
Sir, no, sir!
Are you in love with me, Swafford?
Sir, no, sir!
Oh, you don't think I look good in my uniform, Swafford?
Sir, the drill instructor looks fabulous in his uniform, sir!
Oh, so you're gay then, and you love me, huh?
Sir, I'm not gay, sir!
Do you have a girlfriend, Swafford?
Sir, yes, sir!
Yes again, motherfucker. Jody's banging her right now. Get on your face and give me 25 for every time she gets fucked this month. Down on your face!
It was shortly after meeting drill instructor Fitch that I realized that joining the Marine Corps might have been a bad decision.
What in the fuck is this?
Sir, it's the recruit's drawing of a footlocker, sir!
Jesus, Joseph and doggy style, Mary. That is a pile of dog shit.
Sir, the recruit's never been good at drawing, sir!
Why the fuck are you my scribe then? Isn't my scribe supposed to know how to draw?
Sir, the recruit doesn't know. The recruit thought the scribe was supposed to write, sir!
Of course the recruit doesn't know. The recruit doesn't know because I haven't told him. All right, Comfort Brains. Show me exactly where your skivvies and running shoes go.
Sir, the recruit can't think while the drill instructor is hitting him on his head, sir!
You can't think while I'm giving you a few love taps? How the fuck are you going to fire your rifle when grenades are going off in your face? What the fuck are you even doing here?
Sir, I got lost on the way to college, sir!
Hey guys, Total Control 871. Lost on the way to college. Woo! Wow. So how's everybody been doing? Today's topic is going to be on crime and punishment. I understand that there's quite a bit of discussion about crime and punishment. The Rayshard Brooks killing. We're going to be talking about that. However, before I segue into that, I want to show you a few things. Let's review and get a little bit more acquainted.
A felony murder charge and 10 other charges for former Atlanta police officer Garrett Rolfe, who shot and killed 27-year-old Rayshard Brooks.
We've concluded at the time Mr. Brooks was shot that he did not pose an immediate threat of death.
Fulton County District Attorney Paul Howard also charged the other officer at the scene, Devin Brosnan, with aggravated assault and 2 other charges for violating police rules. Both officers faced charges for their actions after the shooting, including waiting more than 2 minutes to provide medical attention to Brooks.
During the 2 minutes and 12 seconds that Officer Rolfe actually kicked Mr. Brooks while he laid on the ground, while he was there fighting for his life. Officer Brosnan actually stood on Mr. Brooks's shoulders.
Brooks' wife said she was appalled when she learned that Rolfe allegedly kicked her husband.
I felt everything that he felt just by hearing what he went through. And it hurt. It hurt really bad.
Police were called to a Wendy's restaurant Friday night after a 911 caller said that a car was blocking the drive-thru lane. Brooks was found by police seemingly asleep at the wheel. Police body camera video showed the 20-minute interaction between Brooks and the 2 officers was calm. The officers conducted a sobriety test on the 27-year-old.
I know, you just doing your job.
Brooks failed the breathalyzer test, and as Rolfe began to arrest him, the struggle began. Brooks resisted arrest. All three fell to the ground. Now, Brooks got away, taking the other officer's taser with him. A chase ensued, and Brooks turned back towards the officer, pointing the taser. That's when Rolfe shot Brooks in the back. He was hit twice, according to the medical examiner. The attorney for the family said that he saw reason for hope today.
This isn't like a celebration or a victory lap of watching these officers get charged. Nobody's happy, nobody's celebrating, because this never should have happened. We shouldn't have to celebrate as African Americans when we get a piece of justice like today.
And Aaron, you said at the top of this broadcast accurately that the district attorney, Paul Howard, said that Officer Brosnan would be cooperating with the investigation and potentially would testify in the prosecution against ex-Officer Rolfe. Well, we received the statement from Officer Brosnan's attorney, which says that he has not agreed to testify, has not agreed to plead guilty, and has not agreed to be a state's witness. We also heard from the the attorney for the ex-officer, Garrett Rolfe, who says that the shooting was justified. Of course, they've got until 6 p.m. tomorrow, according to the DA, to turn themselves in. These protesters want them to be proactively arrested, and that's why they are still here. Aaron?
Threat of death. Life.
Fulton County District Attorney.
Okay. All right. How does Jarhead fit with that? I guess you guys know I'm always using my movie references. Crime and punishment. The two go hand in hand. The reason why military recruits are given the treatment that they are, it's not necessarily be sadistic. I could definitely segue into a whole psychological subsection of suffering and bonding. That's a whole subsection of fraternities, gangs, military. What the three entities have in common is that they all utilize shared suffering to psychologically bond with each other. I could so go off into that quite a bit. But in military recruitment, the recruits simply won't, number one, they won't remember unless there is some grievous punishment looming. They have to be able to actively fear their drill instructor, fear the consequences that will come from their drill instructor. It can't just simply be something, of a stern talking to. Now, of course, the limits of this have definitely been tested over the decades. If I'm not mistaken, I think for a while there, I don't know if they're still doing it. Timeout cards are issued to new recruits. I think they get like 3 of them when they just simply need, that moment of space, just because recruits had started committing suicide. So obviously that's counteractive to your recruitment. Rayshard Brooks did not want to go to jail at all cost. I can understand the horror that is associated with jail. Now, of course, many of our conservatives would say if you don't want to go to jail, don't break the law. For the most part, this is true. However, there is indeed a section of society that our laws don't work for them. We're just now getting around to abolishing cash bail. Okay, I fully support the three rookie officers in the George Floyd murder. I do support their release on bond. That's not to say that I believe that they're innocent. Not to say that I believe they're guilty. I do believe that they should indeed be given the presumption of innocence. All criminal defendants are supposed to be given the presumption of innocence, and it is incumbent upon prosecution to carry that that burden. The burden of proving that they committed these crimes, okay? The burden shouldn't be on defense, it's on prosecution. But because so many in jail, not just simply black and brown people, black, brown, white, and every other color, they know that the justice system fails the poor so horribly. So when I watch Rayshawn pull away, not wanting to get arrested, I know it's not just simply him not wanting to take ownership of his crime, which ironically enough, I believe in that Reconnect video where he was interviewed, I think a year prior or something, he himself even speaks about taking ownership of your responsibility and owning your crimes. Yet here today we saw that he was not willing to do that. Not willing to do that. Crime and punishment. I'm going to talk now about an old job that I had, valet parking, called Central Parking System, for a casino in Atlantic City, Claridge. There was a particular, because you worked various locations throughout the casino's property for various functions of the valet system. This one particular lot, a parking lot located on Kentucky Avenue, and it's remote, so you're away from just about everybody, and I worked grave shift. The long story short there is that not just simply me, a lot of, I guess you call us cashiers, although I didn't really deal, that location doesn't deal with cash at all. Lot attendant, if you want to say that. So, a lot of us would have difficulty staying awake. And this particular night, I'm afraid, it got the better of me, and I did indeed fall asleep. Now, there was a particular supervisor working. It was a white guy. His name was Bill. He had been hired not too long ago, if I'm not mistaken, in the DGE, Division of Gaming Enforcement. I forget. I think it was one of Taj Mahal, I think it was. They did some sort of a crackdown sweep. Pit supervisors, a gaming table, for those of you who don't know what a pit is. The gaming table supervisors and the gaming table managers, they got caught up in a bit of a scandal, giving out comp rooms and all sort of privileges and amenities that the player hadn't actually earned through their gambling. He was one such person that was caught up in that sweep. I'm not saying he was guilty of it, but he was terminated for it. I don't really know exactly what the legal fallout was. I think there was some sort of legal charging consequences because he lost his 2-1 gaming license, which would seem to say that there were legal ramifications, and therefore that's how he found himself being a supervisor of a parking lot. It didn't require a license for that. And anywho, I said all that to say this, is that Bill was a dick. He was an asshole. So he catches me sleeping on the lot one night. Catches me sleeping. And of course I didn't have the black rider over there, but I did have a black bicycle. I think it was a Ross Boss Cruiser 7-speed type deal. I love the bike. I love all my bikes, So this is back in 99, 98, 99, okay? Very long time ago. And Bill exacted his revenge and implemented punishment in a very unique way. What he did was, while I was sleeping, and you would have thought I would have locked the bicycle, but I wasn't expecting to fall asleep. And it was inside the parking booth. It's right there in front of me. I'm watching it all night. So anyway, as I fell asleep, Bill takes the bike and he rolls it behind a dumpster on the parking lot. Okay? And then he sneaks off back to the main casino and he calls my extension. I pick up the phone. Yep, Kentucky lot. And, I'm all sleepy, trying to hiding the fact that I was sleeping. And he says, what did he say? He broke my balls about this, that, and the other, and he asked me something or another, but he didn't say anything about the bicycle. So I hung up. And it was then that I noticed that my bike was gone. And he allowed me to stew for a couple of hours. You see, I couldn't complain to anybody. I couldn't report my bicycle stolen because if my bicycle was right in front of me, how did it get stolen? Oh, you were sleeping. See, you could make the report, but it would cost you your job. Crime and punishment. Interesting. After letting me twist in the wind, Bill eventually called me back and asked, "Hey, where's your bicycle?" And he starts giggling and laughing, and I say, "Where is it?" And he tells me that it's behind the dumpster. The sensation of having your bicycle stolen is an incredible gut punch, like you would not know. I did not fall asleep on that job ever again. Well, almost. There was one other time, but it had a very, very good reason. I was working in the self-parking garage, and I had just gotten back into cycling back in 2000. Like now, pollen in the air, and I was like, your mouth and your nose becomes a pollen air scoop when you're riding a bike. Had to take Benadryl. So it's grave shift already. A self-park garage, oh my God, especially like in winter, it just simply grinds to a halt. If I'm grave shift 12 to 8 in the morning, between the hours of 4 a.m. and 8 a.m., you might get 3 customers. Very long and slow. Actually, but my point is that a black supervisor, his name was Troy, he pulled through and he caught me sleeping and nodded off. What I found interesting was that Troy blew the whistle on me. He told management. I had submitted my application to be a supervisor myself. Troy, the black supervisor, was actively trying to stop, thwart, and halt my attempts at being a supervisor. There's a lot that black people could tell you about the black community, how the black community doesn't have each other's backs at all, okay? But I found that interesting. Bill didn't blow the whistle on me. He exacted his revenge in a different way. A way that was far more effective than what Troy ever could have done, okay? But yeah, I did not fall asleep again. So there you go, your crime and punishment. But now, let's take a closer look at crime and punishment. What we're looking at here, okay, some white people are sharing their experiences with cops in efforts to highlight the disparities. Is that so? And here we have, we got the showrunner of Grey's Anatomy, co-founder of Reddit, among the white peoples, telling their tales. I'll link this down below. You can read it at your leisure. Krista Vernoff, showrunner, Grey's Anatomy, talks about how she shoplifted thousands of dollars, 6 months probation, and wasn't even handcuffed. Hey, I get it. That's an excellent example drawing the differences. Now, the showrunner tweeted about the incident to her more than 50,000 followers. Had I been shot in the, if I had been shot in the back, police officer for shoplifting, in which I knowingly and willfully, soberly took the stuff, would they have said I deserved it? Let's see here. She drew a comparison to Rayshard Brooks, a black man who was killed by police in Atlanta last week after resisting arrest. The system that lets me live and murders Rayshard Brooks is a broken system that must change. Stop defending it. Demand the change, Vernoff tweeted. Okay. She asked other white people. Sorry. I told you I have a respiratory disability. People don't want to believe it, but it's very real. You don't call them crimes. Your parents call them mistakes. We can definitely see that disparity in the difference between white addiction, black addiction. Nobody wanted to do anything about decriminalizing addiction until it happened to enough affluent white people. However, I do have a big problem when she says this. Think of all the mistakes you've made that you were allowed to survive, she wrote. Allowed to survive. Honestly, that statement really does bring me full circle back to Rayshard Brooks and the whole reason as to why he was stopped to begin with. The man was drunk behind the wheel. Now, Krista Vernoff, she is speaking about these transgressions as if they're, I don't know, what do you say, coloring outside the lines in kindergarten? Now, I truly acknowledge what she's trying to do there. It is true. These crimes should not be death sentences. I get that. All too often they are death sentences, needless death sentences. I've watched the shooting footage as much as I could possibly see. They always cut the video off at the moment of the bullet's impact. I need to be able to see these things. But then again, corporate media does not want the public to be able to independently think for themselves. The public media, they're going to be the ones who are going to tell you what your opinion should be. I'm sorry, but I do need to see the unedited footage so that I can see for myself. Of what I have seen, I'm going to go ahead and say that Officer Rolf, how do you pronounce it? It makes me want to say roll-off, like a roll-off hub. Officer Rolf, I don't think he would have shot his gun had Rayshard not turned and pointed the taser at him. And of course that gets into a whole lot of hair splitting. The taser isn't lethal. Taser isn't lethal. Somebody's pointing something at you. You see, it's really difficult, Had he managed to tase the officer, what would have come next? Would he have continued running away? Maybe. Would he have taken an additional weapon from the officer? Maybe. Maybe not. I understand those those police officers, they did indeed engage in a shootout in a crowded parking lot, which caused other innocent bystanders to, their vehicle was struck and they put people's lives in danger. It is true the taser is non-lethal. And the fact that the bullet struck Rayshawn in his back don't bode very well either for the officers. All that said, is this really the message you want to send? Crime and punishment. Now, our tweeter, what is she tweeting? Our Grey's Anatomy tweeter, Krista Vernoff. I believe she goes on in that article to talk about how, you know, I think other celebrities go to talk about how they've had cops take them home, drive them home, allowed them to call friends to pick them up and take them home. Takes us back to our Jarhead opening scene. The reason why the recruits are treated that way is exactly as the drill instructor says. They're going to have to be able to execute complex calculations, maneuvers, to do things both physical and mental, literally, while mortar shells are detonating quite possibly inches away from you. I'm sorry, but there is no safe space in the military. We can't coddle you like that, okay? It is why the treatment, it is meant to psychologically break you down. Uniformity, again, the eerie similarities between cults and, you know, the shaving of the head. It's not necessarily for hygiene, because they don't require it of women. Women don't have hygiene issues with their hair. It's done for uniformity. It sends a psychological message that I am a cult member now. You know, that's why they do it. And if I'm being absolutely honest, between you and me and all the rest of the internet, even if I hadn't been discriminated against so many years ago when I went to that recruitment office, I don't know, maybe that recruitment officer that horrifically embarrassed me, maybe he did do me a favor. It would not have, the military and I would not have meshed very well together at all. I am very much indeed an individual, and the military is all about breaking down individuality. This doesn't get hacked under any circumstance, and that's exactly what the military does. It hacks your brain, breaks you down, indoctrinates you into a cult. Look at me, I'm all off onto something else. But yes, this is what has to happen. When the judge brings his gavel down and he gives you punishment, it has to be something that's going to stop you from committing the crime again. Okay? The cop ending up at the end of your DUI being your best friend. Gee, thanks. He gave me a ride home. Okay. Oh my God, you guys were the greatest. Oh my God. Should this be a thumbnail? What do you guys think? Thumbnail? Oh my God, oh my God. Do you know the cops, they drove me home? Huh? The cops? Oh God, we were so hammered. Oh my God, I was puking left and right. Ever see what happens to children when they grow up with their parents treating them like best friends? Well, we don't have to wonder. Let's take a closer look.
Officer Queen, was that demeanor pretty much consistent through the trip from the ambulance to the hospital?
Yes, sir.
And is that the kind of facial expressions that you were getting as you were trying to describe his, while you were initially assisting with Sergeant Smith and detaining him?
Yes, sir.
And then once you were at the hospital, were you part of obtaining some samples of the defendant's blood as it related to a potential investigation for drunk driving?
I was.
Charles, can you hear my voice? Charles? Charles, can you hear me? You know who couldn't hear Sergeant Queen? 5 of the 9 cyclists that Charles Pinkett Jr. plowed into with his Chevy pickup truck. 5 of them viciously slaughtered right there on the side of the road. I don't know, Krista. You tell me. Should Sergeant Queen have been Charles's best friend and give him a ride home? I don't know. From the looks of it, it looks like maybe a few people already did give him a ride home. Did Charles Pinkett get break after break after break? I'm sure if there were police officers who cut him some slack in years gone by, yeah, I know you're a mile away from home. It's a dirt road. It's a country back road. Just try and keep it on the road. All right, once you get in, don't just stay in for the night. That's our Grey's Anatomy actress as she talks about just cutting them a break. Crime and punishment. There's a reason why the crime and the punishment go hand in hand. The punishment has to fit the crime. I'm sorry, but Sergeant Queen, being Charles Pinkett's best friend, best buddy pal, driving him home would only fuel his addiction to once again down a bunch of pills, wash them down with alcohol, and take off into his truck. The cops know me. They'll just give me a ride home. Five Hearst gave those cyclists a ride to their final home, their final resting place. Those cyclists can't hear Sergeant Queen or their loved ones or anybody else ever again. This one really is difficult for me to think. I mean, the problem is the tendrils of it are so deep. Rayshard Brooks resisted arrest because he knows how fucked up the criminal justice system is. Not allowing cash bail, poverty. Okay. Evidence, exculpatory evidence, sequestered by prosecution. When you are of a certain color and of a certain economic status, no, you do not get the same justice. Nevertheless, what Rayshard Brooks was doing that night could have just as easily ended in an entire family being savagely killed. Our jarhead recruit said he got lost on his way to college. Rayshard Brooks wasn't going to college. He was going to Wendy's. And unlike our jarhead recruit, who was lacking in good penmanship, Rayshard Brooks was lacking in good judgment. Drinking while driving and putting everybody's life in danger. You know, a real threat, a real pandemic. Total Control 871.